Keep on. Well, we're ready to go. It's ready. Hey, guys.
Good evening,
We're
ladies
ready.
and gentlemen, and welcome to the Tuesday, January 20th, 2015 City Council meeting. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order, and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Shelley, if you want to do roll call for us?
Albertson.
Here.
Bueller. Bueller.
Here.
Danforth.
Here.
Manty.
Here.
Meisenheimer.
Here.
Riefenberger.
Here.
Roby.
Here.
Solem is absent. Tupper.
Here.
Wilkins.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. At this time, number one, approval of the consent agenda. I can get a motion and a second on that.
Second.
Any discussion, any changes you want to do on that? The motion was Beth, second by Bruce. Okay, hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number two, approval of the agenda. I need to make a couple of changes here. I will remove item 21 on the consideration of the borrow agreement. In its place, I will put the consideration of addendum to the FBO agreement with Airco.
Is that mine?
Any other things that we need to change? I'll look for a motion, a second for discussion. Motion by Don, second by Al. Any questions, anything you need changing on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number three, ordinance number 1502, amending section 2.0102, regulating the permitted locations of alcoholic beverage establishments within and for the city of Watertown. This is a second reading. We don't need a public, I don't believe. Is there any questions on this? I guess what I'll do is I'll look for a motion and a second for
So moved.
discussion purposes. Motion by Randy, second by Beth. Any questions that you guys have? We've gone through this. This is where we are going to be able to have, so if a liquor establishment or a church moves in, you know, they're within 300 feet in the commercial district, it's okay.
The question I had on the first reading, Mayor, was why the C2 was not included. Did you?
Yep.
Yeah, I think if you remember from a previous meeting, when this issue came up, it was at the time we were amending the conditional uses in the C1 and C3 to have post-secondary education as a conditional use in those two districts. It's not a permitted, it's not a conditional use in the C2 zone. It's not in the community commercial district. It's not listed. So that's why this mirrors what the change that you recently made in the C1 and C3 in the conditional uses.
That's the same for churches as well? In C2?
Correct.
Okay, any other questions on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number four, first reading of ordinance number 1503, amending section 11.0410, regulating prohibited waste at the Watertown Regional Landfill. Mike, I don't know, this is first readings. Normally, we don't get into it too heavily, but if they do have any questions, I'll let them direct it your way here for a minute. Anybody got any questions to Mike on this here one?
This petroleum stuff's crossed out, Mike, so does that mean you're gonna accept the contaminated soil then?
Well, we have always accepted it, but
So-
there was a permit limit for total petroleum hydrocarbons in the contaminated soil, and that number changed. So we'd like to just take that permit limit out of the ordinance, because we really don't need to have it in the ordinance. Sort of a housekeeping issue is all it is.
So the ordinance is being struck entirely, or stricken entirely?
Well, two sections of it are removing the limit, any reference to the total petroleum hydrocarbon concentration in contaminated soil, as it's covered under our permits, which we're required to meet. And that's the way this number has changed, and it could change again, and then this way we won't have to keep editing that ordinance.
Is this the entire ordinance in our packet? That's just one section of it.
It's just those subsections that are being removed.
Okay, I think I will move forward on that. Thank you, Mike. Number 5, rate schedule amendment for users of the landfill, refuse, compost, and recycling system. This is resolution number 1504. If you all remember, Mike's been here a couple of times talking about an increase in the landfill costs. Dollars, it is costing more and more constantly out there for our trucks and our help and such. So we are looking at increasing the landfill rates by $1 for the normal consumer in Watertown. The other one, which is the
tipping fee for municipal solid waste.
will go up $3.
Yeah.
So what I'll look for here is a motion and a second for discussion purposes.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Mike. Is there any questions that you have? I will also like to throw in that the residential has not moved up at all since 1998. So this will be the
Correct,
first
17 years,
increase since that time.
Now, part of that's being set aside, correct me if I'm right or wrong, for the
Land.
purchase, the land purchase?
Yes, that's a recommendation. We've discussed setting a percentage of our revenue aside. In this case, we're recommending the $3 per ton go to the land acquisition fund, which we currently have not funded. We've talked about it. I think the council has talked about it being a good idea. We see other landfills doing it. And so the recommendation is that $3 per ton would go to accrue that for a future land acquisition.
Just the $3 a ton, but not the dollar on the residential?
Right. The
Okay.
$1 ton is just funding regular expenses.
Okay,
But
thank
that
you.
would be about $120,000 that you're able to put away every year for the land acquisition. Is that
It'd be
correct?
about 130, yep, that's right.
And is that in a separate account that exists today, Mike? Is that,
Well-
would be,
It,
and that will be created then? Okay.
Mike, just a minor suggestion. This is just for language purposes on here. I noticed that you got $37.50 and you got $22 a ton you got 22 for the white goods and 37 for the other materials. If we just had a clause in there that said any untarped materials shall be charged at twice the normal rate per ton, excluding hazardous waste, contaminated soils, and asbestos. Just a thought. You know, and it might be wherever we post this to the public. I think that might be easier to understand it. It's going to cost you twice as much if you don't tarp it.
It's kind of funny, Mike. I see people driving out the landfill untarped until they get about 2 blocks away.
some
They
people
throw that
don't.
tarp on.
Yeah, yeah. They don't mind to pay the double fee.
Yeah.
Others do.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike on this? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Mayor,
Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry.
did you want to make that an amendment to what the motion and second was to change that language, or are you just going to leave it as is?
I just suggest that. Does anybody have an issue with that? Of making that change? I can supply with that language after the meeting if you'd like. If you want to adopt that into the, into that section.
We would have to.
Is that good with Mike?
Yeah.
We'd have to vote on that. Do
Okay.
you want to bring it back next time, or you want it on right now?
If Bruce wants to make an amendment and gets a second, you can approve the motion as amended.
Okay?
Okay, well, I'd make a motion to amend it to say, to change the language, get rid of the charges that we currently have on section 1 and change it to any untarped materials shall be charged at twice the normal rate per ton, excluding hazardous waste, contaminated soils, and asbestos. If you read that ordinance, Mike, it
Yeah.
specifies.
We would want double the fee on contaminated soil too, because rocks bounce off of those
No,
loads.
I said excluding
Oh, okay.
contaminated soil.
Yeah, so all you're doing is eliminating the dollar number and. Is that way if we go back 2 years from now and change the fee?
I think what I'm hearing everybody say is that instead of a dollar amount on there on the double side, like the $44, it'll just say double.
Well, it's that same concept of not having to keep
Well, I think that's
changing
what's,
it all the time.
that's what's always been kind of voiced to the public in the past, I mean, if you don't cover your load, you're gonna pay double tipping fees, so.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second with, or should we?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we got Bruce's motion, and I need a second on that. Second by Bill. Any other discussion on it? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Mike. Number 6, authorization for the mayor to sign a township agreement to provide fire protection services for Elmira, Kransburg Village, Rawville, Richland, Pelican, Kransburg, Sheridan Lake, and Compesta Townships. I see Doug, you're ready to go.
Ready to go?
Take her away.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an updated agreement for fire protection with these 9 townships. That's the amount of townships that we currently give service to for fire protection. The agreement itself is replacing an older agreement. There's some minor changes in some of the language, but some of the major changes that we've dealt with is we've split these township agreements. We used to have them all on one township agreement, all 9 townships. And under the new system, we individualized them out to each township. Gives them a little more consistency in for each township in case one of them has some questions or something. So with that is some of the main townships. You'll notice that this agreement runs for five-year period. And it has language in here also about down here, additional 5 years can be included if both parties agree to that. So that is basically the township agreement. And here is we did work with finance on a plan to increase some of the fees for service for fire protection for these 9 townships. And you'll notice we got some small increases every other year for the first 5 years, and that will also work into the 10-year plan if both parties agree. And that the language of the agreements were drawn up by with the help of Stanton, and the financial part was assisted by the finance office. I'd like to thank both of them for their assistance in this. All 9 townships have signed and are very willing and receptive to the increases and signing into the new contracts, which will replace the older contracts.
Okay, thanks, Doug. At this time, I'm going to look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Albertson, Dan Albertson. Second by Bruce, sorry, Dan. Is there any more questions? Any questions you want to ask Doug on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, authorization for the mayor to sign an agreement for engineering services with HR Green, Inc. for the wastewater ultraviolet disinfection improvement project in the amount of $41,000. This would be Mike again.
Yes, HR Green is a nationwide firm. They've given us this proposal out of their Sioux Falls office for designing the upgrade to our wastewater ultraviolet disinfection process. They have worked locally with Watertown municipal utilities on projects, and they have completed at least 10 other wastewater ultraviolet disinfection projects, so they have the qualifications that we're looking for. HR Green proposes to produce the plans, specifications, and drawings and bid the project for $41,000, as the current 1997 ultraviolet disinfection equipment is in a very near future no longer going to be supported by the manufacturer. We've had trouble with parts and service at this point. And this process is essential to us meeting our surface water discharge permit. So we budgeted for this project based upon HR Green's estimate. And I would say that HR Green representatives have, on their own time, gone to the length of contacting the manufacturer of the system, reviewing our drawings, and determining that there is a new system available that will fit our existing channels with minimum modifications to the concrete channels.
Perfect. At this time, Mike, what I'm going to look for is a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Randy, second by Beth. Is there any questions you have for Mike?
Mike, is this the only company you got a bid from?
Yeah, so we have a quote from.
Okay.
so the new equipment, what you're saying would be from the same people that the current equipment is?
Yes.
That would, and it fits in the same area. So where's the major cost if they don't have to do a lot of
Yeah. There's no-
construction stuff? Is it, where's the main cost in the
There might be
600,000?
minor modifications to some fiberglass weirs, but shouldn't be any concrete work. It's basically gonna fit in the same channel, but it'll be newer, modern equipment that will be supported.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that's my next question, is there's, feel fairly comfortable then that you're not gonna be backed into the same situation in
No.
the very near future or anything, because
No.
they don't support it?
No. Yeah, feel good about this.
Okay.
Mike, you said this was budgeted for 2015, right?
Correct.
How does this whole scenario, how do your numbers all add up to compared to what you budgeted?
Well, we budgeted 41,000 based upon the quote. I asked a couple firms to give us budget quotes, and we got one from HR Green, and then that's where we budgeted this 41,000. Then they've given us this proposal. They've also given me a pre-design construction cost estimate and construction engineering quote also that we put in the budget. So we would design this in 2015, then construct it in 2016.
Okay, so, all right, so that number hasn't been budgeted. This is what will go in the 2016 budget?
Yeah.
For construction costs? Okay.
Oh, excuse me, this would be,
No, this is
2015.
this is 2,000, the 41,000 is for this year for the
I
design.
think you're talking about the 600.
And then there'll be another 559,000 in the 2016 budget.
That's what
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mike on this? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, authorization for mayor to sign an agreement for engineering services with Houston Engineering, Inc. for the landfill cell number 6 design and site stormwater analysis project in the amount of $14,600. I think what I'll do is have a motion and a second, and then will either Mike or Sarah take care of this? Motion by Bruce, second by Mike. Okay, go ahead, Mike or Sarah, whichever one wants to take it.
Okay,
Ron.
yeah, we've budgeted for the completion of the design. Design is in most part finished, they're just gonna complete it, and then they're gonna evaluate the complete landfill site for stormwater flows, so that when we construct cell number 6 in 2016, then we will be able to have the stormwater controls incorporated into that design and construction project. So it's gonna put the stormwater in the right places, put the runoff from the cover that's unvegetated into the sedimentation pond, and directs waste, the surface water, stormwater flow away from the paths of travel and away from the open face. So we wanted to start this project now, and then they'll be able to give us an updated design engineer's cost estimate before we do the next budget cycle. So instead of the budget marker we've got in the budget for construction in 2016, we'll have a current engineer's estimate, or probable cost estimate. So cell 6 might have more groundwater challenges than 5, so we'd like to get moving on that.
Okay, any other questions for Mike? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, thank you, Mike. Number 9, authorization for mayor to sign a state water plan application for Kittleson Addition and sanitary sewer extension. This would be Sarah.
Ray, would you mind putting my computer up? Kittleson Addition is a county addition. It's not in the city limits. It's on the north side of Lake Pelican, and it's very near to Cax Addition across the street, which is a relatively new addition. Kittleson Addition is right here. And these folks... Oh, okay. All right.
He's doing Candy Crush. That's Candy Crush.
Not coming up. Okay. It's a small addition which has homes that have been there long before the city was out there and available. And they are all on septic systems. They're right next to the lake, sandy soils. They're having some issues with the sewers, and they would like to connect to the city sanitary sewer. And they requested annexation and wanted, and we responded, you come into the city, you need to be in the sewer and have public facilities brought up to our specifications. And, okay, am I up now? Kittleson addition is right here. And so we asked SEH consultants to look at serving this area with sanitary sewer and give us a cost estimate. And they did that. They found part of it could be served by gravity, which is less expensive. The rest of it would be served by a pressure system. And it's not a traditional pressure system where you have a lift station, but individual grinder pumps which connect into a shared force main. And the cost of doing that is generally less expensive. A lot of lakes use that type of system. And we don't have anything like that currently in Watertown, which is why we asked SEH to look at it. And their cost estimate just for the sewer was over $800,000 for that addition, $27,763 per lot, which is beyond that addition's ability to look at. So we are looking for a grant, and the purpose of this being on the agenda is for the council to give authorization for the mayor to sign the application to the state water plan. That's the first step in getting a grant to do a project like this.
Okay, so what I'll look for now is a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Bill, second by Beth, was it? By Beth. Is there any questions that you have for Sarah on this?
Sarah, our approval of this, for the mayor to sign this application and working towards the grant, does that commit us to anything?
No, that does not obligate us
And
to
so
anything.
ultimately, we'd see if we get a grant, how much.
Right.
And then we'd have to look at,
Without the grant, we basically tell them, no, sorry. Unless you're interested in putting that kind of money out. This is the type of thing, though, that grants are there for, is these are existing homes, and they have sewer systems. They just are not good sewer systems, and actually, with the soils, that waste is going right into Lake Pelican, and it hinders the quality of Lake Pelican water.
So in other words, no, I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in other words, right now, this of course, $27,000 at average, you said, basically not feasible for anybody.
Right, that's just the sewer, then
Yeah.
there'd be road and water and other expenses as well.
That would be assessed back to the property owner though, right?
Right.
Okay,
They
Now, if we-
wouldn't move forward with an assessment project
yeah.
with that kind of,
So now with the grant dollars, we'd have to figure out what we get for grant dollars and we'd be
Right.
able to reapproach the whole
if we're put on the
situation.
water plan, then they'll consider it for a grant. And if they decide to fund it in part, then we'd have to look at how much is their fund gonna reduce the individual
Assessed
cost.
value of 7,000
Right.
instead of 27,000.
Right.
So that would be
It
more
still might
feasible,
not.
Yeah,
Go, but
possibly, yeah.
we need to ask the question.
Sarah, would these, if this grant went through and this work went through, would we annex this into the community?
Yes,
So it would become a part of
would,
the
right.
city proper then?
right.
And I think one of the concerns they have right now out there is really snow removal. They depend upon the township, and it's kind of a struggle getting something out there. So there's a number of things they'd like to get done on it. Any other questions for Sarah?
Sarah, bring your map back up again there and be more specific where exactly that's at.
Right. This is CAC's edition, Steve Horning's
Yeah.
newer edition. Bourne's edition is just to the north and west.
That's the
The
stuff.
Redland Arts
Okay,
building.
now I know, yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Sarah.
You're
Number 10,
welcome.
authorization for the mayor to sign the agreement with First District for GIS planning and zoning services for 2015. Again, Sarah, if you want to take that for us.
Sure. This is an annual contract that we have with First District to provide these services to us. And it's the same rate that they've been charging us since 2010. So I would recommend that we continue with that and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. I got a motion by Randy, second by Dan. Any questions for Sarah on this?
I don't know, just for the public's sake, you might want to just describe what that is.
Okay.
You know, what it's all about.
Sure.
You're kind of using it right there, are you not?
Right. Well, First District provides a lot of services to us. They're a planning district, so they provide planning services. They manage the geographic information system, which is this map that we use all the time. We can click on it and information about the land where we've clicked comes up, like who owns it and what the legal description is and lots of other information. And they come to all of our meetings, all of our planning meetings, and guide us through the process. They work with a lot of communities to provide planning and zoning services, so they know statistically who does what and what kind of standards do different communities have, so they can advise us on if what we're proposing to do is normal or if it's different, or what kind of issues other people have had. So I guess, and is that
It's a
clear
very
enough?
valuable service.
It's
that
really
they-
important.
They offer us now every Tuesday. They're at our meetings.
Mhm.
Luke is always there from First District on all the engineering meetings and all the.
Aren't they incorporating that new 3D stuff too?
Yes, and they have their own website, which is a separate agreement where they keep up a county-wide geographic information system on their website. And we participate in that as well. This is our information whenever we have an action, like a proposal even. If we had a development proposal, we send it to First District. They put it on the map, so when we have our meeting, we can look at it and see how it fits in with the existing road system and lot layouts and that sort of thing, and the zoning, all that sort of stuff.
Isn't a lot of this also used by the E911? I mean, isn't that where they get all their addressing?
Yes, they rely on that too. They have separate contracts from this. But
It's a really good planning tool. It's good for the planning commission too, and I think, you can layer in school districts, you can layer in, parks, you can layer in, roads and sewer systems. It's all, you can just pull it right up and look at it. So it's really a nice thing to have.
I think something too that a lot of people aren't aware of is that they will also help small businesses and small business owners and other community organizations with business plans and grants and applying for funding. And so it goes down the line with, helping our entrepreneurial community. And so they do a lot more than I think people realize.
Well, the grant agreement that was the previous item on the agenda was prepared by First District for us. It's just one of the services they provide.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions for Sarah? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, kind of slides right back into it, Sarah.
Right. This next agreement with First District is, again, an annual agreement that we have with First District. And the total cost of the service of maintaining a website with the geographic information system is $10,000, and the city's share is $4,500. And again, I recommend that you authorize the mayor to sign this agreement.
Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Al, second by Don. Any questions that you have for Sarah on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, authorization for the mayor to sign the following documents for the 19th Street Reconstruction Project, and that will be the Urban Surface Transportation Program Funding Agreement, the right-of-way certificate, utility certificate, and bid letting authorization. We're going to do these all as one motion. So I will look now for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Dan. Second by Beth. Okay, Sarah, if you want to jump into this, because you've been working a long time on this thing.
Yeah. The 19th Street project is funded with state and federal funds. And the city participates in the state transportation program, which gives us the money, and we have to agree to certain terms. And we host the project. The state has a contract with the contractor, but they also have contracts with us that we have to honor in order to get that money to do the improvements to our road system. So every time we do a project, we have to do these same agreements. And the funding agreement spells out our obligations. We get a certain amount of money, and they tell you where it's coming from, how much of it's federal, how much of it's state. And we promise to maintain the roads and follow their rules, essentially, which I recommend that we would do. The right-of-way certificate says that we have acquired all the right-of-way. That's our responsibility. That was all those easements that I've been working on for months. And we have all of the easements that we need. And they have received copies of them. And now our certificate says, yes, we have all the right-of-way that's needed. The utility certificate says the private utilities are going to get a letter that says they have to cooperate and move their stuff out of the way at no cost to the state. And it goes for us as well. We have sanitary sewer in there. We have electric in there. It's not part of this project. And the utility certificate essentially says they won't be expected to pay for anything that gets in the way. We have to move it for our project to move forward. So you're always going to have conflicts once you open that road up for construction. And this is their assurance from us that we're not going to try and make them pay for something because of a utility conflict that arises. And the bid letting authorization gives them our permission to move forward with their bid process, just like you always give authorization before we go to bid with our own projects. This is our authorization for them to go out to bid.
Okay, is there any questions you have for Sarah?
I just have one question. From past agreements that we've signed, is there anything materially different? in this
No,
one?
no, they're all the same.
Any other questions? This will be an exciting road to get done. Anything? Nothing? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Sarah. Number 13, authorization for the mayor to sign the agreement for engineering services with Austin Engineering for the sanitary sewer extension project. And Sarah, if you'd like to do that again for us.
Sure. The sanitary sewer that we're talking about is the sewer extension that is required to serve the new community center. And it's actually going to be a public sewer. It's not just a service. We'll be extending the public sewer across the rec center lot, all the way over to what will be the future 15th Avenue, from where it ends right now at the middle school property. And it's not a big ticket item. We don't have the estimate on the construction cost for that yet, but Austin Engineering has been doing all of the site work and surveying for the community center, and this is on that property. And so it's logical that they would design the sewer. And their cost for doing that isn't in here, but it's $900. That's what they've quoted as a not-to-exceed amount. And you really can't beat that price.
Okay, at this time, I will look for a motion and a second. Motion by Don,
Second.
second by Randy. Any questions, concerns? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 14, consideration of amendment number 1, the engineering service agreement with AECOM for the wastewater facility arc flash study and SCADA upgrade project in the amount of $8,325.14. And Mike, you're up.
Yes, this amendment on the SCADA Arc Flash Engineering Agreement is for $8,325.14, brings the total contract up to $62,584.14. And these were services that were previously approved to keep the projects moving along. And so at this point, the engineering was completed on the arc flash, and the SCADA has been designed and bid and is currently under construction.
Okay, well, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion on this. Motion by Mike, second by Bruce. Have you got any questions for Mike?
How does this compare to what we originally did? Is this,
Well, with this one, it added additional services, hours that weren't planned into the contract that were required to complete the work.
Any other questions for Mike on this?
Explain to me arc flash study.
That's a good one, yeah. The arc flash study is basically an engineering study. All new construction, like our headworks that's just a few years old, is engineered with arc flash compliance. Our 46 lift stations were not, and our older portions of our facility weren't. But what it does is it determines this potential for an uncontrolled arc flash to occur that can cause second-degree burns, could give you a shock, possibly a lethal shock, splatter metal components on you because of this arc flash. And so what they do is they evaluate all these electrical control panels, and they determine something called the incident energy, which is expressed in terms of calories per centimeter. The greater the number, the greater the hazard, the more intensive personal protective equipment is required. So when it's all said and done, some components were changed, adjustments were made on some components, personal protective equipment is purchased, and then labels are placed on all these panels, so you know the hazard as you approach it, that above 12 calories per centimeter, we call electrician, we don't touch it. Below 12 and above 1.2 calories per centimeter squared, there's a certain level of equipment that's required, and it tells the staff, stop, don't go any further, you have to wear this equipment to work on this control panel.
Thank you.
Did you get that, Randy?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Everybody knew
That
that.
was a weird one.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that.
I should know
We
that.
thought-
I
That's
hated
a
to do
good
that.
question.
I hate it when we start talking about calories.
Yeah, I know, 12 calories.
So,
This
I think
helped
they were
me to
talking about
stop.
me and you.
Shaking right away.
so Bruce, if we approach you and it's more than 12 calories, everybody has to get all geared up.
No
Get a
donuts,
get a
no donuts
shot.
for you. Okay, I think I have a motion and a second, don't I? Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 15, consideration of amendment number 1 to the engineering services agreement with Houston Engineering, Inc. for the landfill scale project in the amount of, did you say that was an incorrect number, Mike?
Yeah, this, the 26,730, that is the contract value if you approve the amendment. The amendment is for $4,800.
Okay. And at this time, I'm gonna look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Bruce, second by Mike. Any questions, or go ahead, Mike, and explain a little bit if you will.
Okay, yeah, the scale project is now complete. The new unit is working flawlessly, but as we closed it out, we received this amendment from Houston Engineering for additional unanticipated engineering services in the amount of $4,800. And this included revising drawings and construction details due to some conflicting survey data, revising the manual and duplicating the bidding services. As you know, we bid this thing once, we threw them out, we bid it again, and there was some extra work involved there. And then there was additional project management during startup. There was a little bit of trouble getting the stuff to interface with our computers, and so there was about $600 there. So total services, $4,800.
Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by, did I have it? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any questions that you have for Mike then on this?
well, Mike, how did we end up? I mean, we had rejected bids once, came back. Did everything come in per our estimates and budget then?
No, it did not. And this is one where, what we originally did is we budgeted before design, $107,500 for a turnkey drop-in scale. As they started designing the change out of the scale, they ended up identifying the need to adjust, reconstruct the footings. And so there was additional construction and engineering costs. So the project was approximately $35,520 over budget, but we were $434,000 under budget on the cell 5 because of the favorable bids, and we were $8,843 under budget on that tier 2 assessment. So bottom line is, the other projects were much more under budget, so we got it done.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 16, Mike, consideration amendment number 1 to the engineering service agreement with HDR for the wastewater alkalinity feed addition project in the amount of $48,248.
Excuse me just a sec. I have a revised agreement that I'll pass out while Mike's talking.
HDR has completed the evaluation of the chemical alternatives and the design engineering, so this is for the construction engineering of this project. And right now, this project is being bid. It was advertised last Saturday. It'll be advertised this coming Saturday. And then we'll have the bid opening on January 30th. And this, again, this is for the construction engineering. We've budgeted $447,000 for this project in 2015 for construction engineering and the construction. So if we take that 447 minus this amount for this contract of 48,248, that leaves us $398,752 for the construction, a possible change order, or maybe potentially additional engineering services, so.
Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mike, second by Dan. Any questions that you have for Mike on this?
So I don't have to read through this versus the other one? What's the difference between what we're being handed versus what we were given in the packet?
I'll let Sarah answer that one.
The packet is just the attachment to the amendment. The first page of the thing I passed out is the actual amendment to the agreement, which states a not to exceed amount. And then the internal part of it is the same, except there was a blank in there for testing. And site testing is normally not included in a not to exceed amount. If we need more soil tests, we do them. They don't cost a lot of money. We need to do them, and we don't want to hold that against the engineering firm if we need more tests. They've spelled out they're going to do the tests that are required, and we'll pay for them as needed. If any of the tests fail, and because of the contractor's fault, and we need to redo the test, then the contractor would pay for it. That's all spelled out.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike or Sarah on this? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 17, you're just about done, Mike.
Yeah. This is
Consideration of change order number 1. It's a final to the contract with K-Scale Limited LLC for the landfill waste scale replacement project, decrease in the contract amount $1,000.10.
adjusted the gravel quantity downward, paid less. Just needed less gravel.
That's the shortest thing.
That is, I was gonna say, that's
you've
great.
ever done.
Don't leave us.
Thank you.
I love it.
I will look for a motion and a second for approval here. Motion by Beth, second by Don. Any questions for Mike? Don't leave yet, Mike. No questions? All right. Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I want to just grab Mike here quick while he's here, and I know it's kind of out of order here, but if you ever go fishing with Mike, I was out last, I don't know, Saturday or Sunday, we were out fishing, and we kind of struggled to get onto the lake. And then we caught our fish and we came back, and he's buzzing along, and I said, you better give her the gun, Mike, so we can get out of this lake. We get about halfway and we're stuck. He looks over at me and he says, oh, by the way, Steve, I brought a shovel. And here I am out shoveling, and you can tell the rest of the
You
story.
should have seen him with a picture with a tow rope over his shoulder, but
He forgot to put it in four-wheel drive.
it popped out.
Thanks, Mike. I had to throw that at you there. Okay, number 18, consideration of bids for the golf course, golf carts. Jay, are you around? Jay and Todd? If you both want to come up, there's probably questions there.
Can't hide behind that pole all night, Todd.
The bids for the Cattail Crossing 5-year golf cart lease were opened here in the council chambers on January 6th. 4 proposals were received from 3 vendors. There are 2 proposals each for the EFI, the electronic fuel injection, and 2 proposals for the carbureted cars models. Bids were tabulated, and then that evening we held a special meeting of the Parks and Recreation and Forestry Board to discuss the proposals and make a recommendation to the council. Parks and Recreation Board passed a motion to recommend the approval of the bid from Yamaha Golf and Utility for the 2015 Yamaha Drive gas carbureted golf cars based on the bid specifications of the annual lease cost and miles per gallon.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna ask for a motion and a second for discussion on this.
So moved.
Motion by Bruce, second by Mike. Is there any questions that you have for Jay or Todd on the golf carts?
I know that some time ago, there was some discussion about the EFI versus the carbureted and mileage and troubles and such. Are we comfortable that going with the carbureted ones, we're gonna be okay with that? And then secondly, did you say you did a calculation of total fuel per unit? And still comes out cheaper then?
Right, right.
Well, I guess carbureted carts are still in existence, but that is old technology and they are moving forward. There is documentation, you know, on sites from other owners and resort owners that have had considerable fuel savings with going with EFI versus a carbureted cart. Cold start, they run better. It's the direction that everything is going in. It was requested that we put both of them in there because some of the vendors would have been discluded had we not put carbureted carts in there, and some of the vendors have already discontinued that technology and only have the EFI. So going forward, it's the direction that I think we're gonna have to move in and look at down the road. My preference was personally EFI carts, just with ease of maintenance. They're better running, more reliable, cold starts, and they will be saving fuel, which could be considerable over a 5-year term. So, but the way we put it into the lease, that one or the other, there's really, I guess that comes down to a decision that the council needs to make as to what
Yeah,
direction they want.
we
I
have a question over here
you.
for you, Todd.
Just glance at the numbers, mileage per gallon, cost savings, you're sort of a wash there, it looks like, according to your numbers there. I'm sure it's not exact, but it's gonna be pretty close. My question is this, at the end of 5 years, EFI carts can be worth more. What consideration do we give to trade-in value and residual value at the end?
Well, in the lease agreement, we had a discussion before we wrote the lease as to how we wanted to do this as a lease to purchase these carts and to negotiate a buyout price after the fact with whoever was awarded the bid. I would believe that the EFI cart is gonna have a higher resale value and trade-in value, obviously, with the technology than a carbureted cart would. But again, with the way the document was written, there was no way to disclude
Okay,
the
let's,
carbureted
have
carts.
you got any questions for Todd on this so that we can move along on it? Or for Jay?
I just have a comment. If the recommendation is to go with the carbureted, but I'm kind of hearing a different recommendation. You're saying go with the EFI, so which one do you guys prefer?
Well, based on the bid documents, and we tried to, so we could compare apples to apples, we, based on the annual lease cost and the miles per gallon, and using those specifications, this is the machine that came out as the best value.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action on this. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mayor, do we know exactly what we just voted for? Are we voting then for the carbureted ones that Jay proposed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It was actually, your board actually made the recommendation to buy
Correct.
these carts. So we're going off the recommendation of the board and yourself. Perfect. Okay, moving on, number 19, authorization to advertise for bids for airport hangar. What we're going to do here is, we actually are looking at building a new hangar out to the airport. We're looking at either a 10 airplane or an 8 airplane. I think right now, the bids, the prices are kind of out there for an 8, which is more than likely what will fit into the area that we have available. So we just want to get some authorization from you guys that it's okay to go out there and get some architectural numbers and fees out there to see what it's going to cost us.
Didn't we talk about this when Eric was around?
Yeah.
Wasn't the issue the numbers for what we get for the lease compared to what we spend is gonna be kind of a subsidized deal more or
Well,
less?
I think when we had the numbers from Eric, they're probably 2 or 3 times higher than what we're expecting them to come in.
Exactly. I think Eric was at close to $900,000,
He
so,
was.
and I don't,
Yeah, we just did a quick call to a couple of companies that make them, and the buildings themselves come in around $120,000 to $130,000. But then there's a lot of additional stuff on that, so we would expect it to be much.
probably
much
about a
over
third or maybe a touch over that.
I think so.
I think it'd be nice to have, to look at those numbers. I know that philosophically, at one point when we looked at this, we didn't think it was a good idea for the city to be in the rental business. I know we do some of that, but I didn't think we wanted to move forward with that. I'm not saying that it's the wrong thing to do today, but it would be
We're
nice
not
to-
voting on doing it, we're voting on getting numbers together, plans and numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We just want to find out if it's okay with you guys, if we go out and get some numbers and kind of see where it's at.
Are we gonna be spending money to do this?
No.
Okay, so it's just obtaining, okay,
Well,
all right.
How much is that?
like $100.
Oh, I'm not gonna do that
$200,
then.
$300, whatever advertising cost.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so I am gonna look for a motion second, so you guys are okay with this.
So moved.
Motion by Randy.
Second.
Second by Bill. Any other questions on it? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 20, authorization to advertise for bids for the following projects. And we're gonna do this all as one, too, are you not, Sarah?
Sure.
Okay.
These are all budgeted projects. If you have any questions about the individual projects, be happy to answer them.
Okay, this will be for the sidewalk accessibility improvements, the Uptown Alley reconstruction, which is Midway, the sanitary sewer rehab project, the Summerwood Concrete Street Improvement Project, the manhole rehab project, the miscellaneous drainage improvement project. What I'll do is I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Dan,
Second, second.
second by Bill. Is there any questions? I guess one of them was that Midway is, we've got 100,000 put away for that, do we not?
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't we have the last alley we did, it ran into a lot of things that maybe weren't expected, we learned something, I presume? And I see
We're
some.
likely to learn from this one, too.
I see uptown the utilities has been doing some other things, they're gonna get rid of maybe some of those upper.
Right, the bridges.
Transformers and things
Yeah.
that are, so there won't be so much stuff in the way there then, or?
Right. They're upgrading their facilities at the same time, and, it makes sense for us to work with them. And when they're going to go into an alley, so they're not tearing it up and patching it, and then we come back and fix it. We'll just do it together. We won't bid it together because they do a lot of the work themselves, but we'll write it into the contract that they'll be doing work at the same time in that vicinity.
So in this example, they've agreed, in this case, that if we do this, they'll do their work.
Oh,
So they've already-
absolutely.
so they've budgeted
They've
that
already
for it.
done a lot of the legwork.
Wasn't there 100,000 set aside last year for, so this just got moved forward, or?
No, we're actually trying to put $100,000 in.
That's what
every
I
year
thought, so.
To do these alleys and to get them built out.
So then now, if we come over budget, then we do have some reserves off of that from last year.
Was there some carried over from last year? I didn't think we did.
We had 100,000 budgeted in 2014. We used a little bit of that as a reimbursement project, so we have about 95,000 that if you wanted to as a council, you could carry that forward into 2015 and add it to the 100,000 that's budgeted in 2015 for alley projects, if that's what you choose to do. Otherwise, it'll just lapse and go away.
So if this project came in over the 100,000, could we do it at that time, I guess is my
Well,
question.
you'd have to make that decision when we do the capital carryover, which will be in April, once
Okay.
we close the year out and know where we stand.
Okay.
So,
Okay, do we have a motion and a second on the floor? Any other questions that you folks have for Sarah on this? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 21, this is where we put the AirCo in, if you recall. I will look for a motion and a second for, and I'm going to read the motion here. To authorize the mayor to sign an addendum to the fixed-based operator operating lease by modifying the monthly lease rate to the 2014 level and modifying the user charges to be based on the actual net gallons of aviation fuel sold each month. So if we're comfortable with that motion, I will look for a motion and a second on it.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Bruce. Any quick questions on it? Hearing none? Oh,
Comment, Mayor, is
Yep.
that we discussed this at length during the work session, if somebody's just joining us, so.
yep, exactly. It was discussed earlier. Okay, hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there any new business that needs to be discussed? Any liaison member reports that need to be brought up in front of the council? There is a need to go into executive session. I need to go in for contract negotiations. More than likely, there will be some action taken in this meeting. So at this time, I'll look for a motion, a second, to go into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Randy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session.